I'm Krisserin Canary.
And I'm Kelton Wright.
Follow our quest to publish our first novels.
From first drafts to query letters,
through inevitable rejection,
and hopefully eventual success.
From California
to Colorado, this is Pen Pals. How was your week, Krisserin?
It was actually not bad.
It was actually not bad. Most weeks are bad, but this one was not.
Well, I feel like because I edit all of the episodes, every time we open it, I'm like, ugh. But this week was not bad. Last night, I went to Rachel Hochhauser's book signing event in LA, and it was so cute. It was at this bookstore in Studio City that I'd never even heard of. I didn't even know these places existed until our friends came through town. Olivia Munter had a book signing event in Tarzana, which is right down the street from me. Love these Valley small independent bookstores. So it was really cute. And it was her birthday yesterday, which I thought was what a nice way to spend your birthday, you know?
Hell yeah. Happy birthday and happy New York Times bestseller list, Rachel.
I know. It was so cool to meet her in real life. It was a packed house, adorable bookstore, great interview, great snacks. And they give away puzzles one of her puzzles if you bought a book. So I bought her a book, I got a puzzle, and I bought the kids' books and some stickers because I can't help myself. It was great. It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I wrote this week.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. I mean, outside of our homework, I wrote like 3,300 words of my book.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, which book? Which you have like 3-4 books happening right now. Which book?
That's not exactly accurate, but I'm calling it middle school love story. That's what I'm calling it.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And that is the one that you completed the homework for. Listeners, last week, our goals were to really work on the plots of our current novels. And Krisserin, we both did our homework.
I know. I was thinking about that as I was getting ready this morning. I was like, we get to tell everyone that we accomplished our goals this week. It's incredible. And I wouldn't have if I hadn't been editing the episode and I realized that I had told you I was going to give you homework by Sunday, and it was Sunday, and I was like, shit.
I said I was going to do mine on Monday, and then I didn't get a chance to. So I had a fever dream on Tuesday and did all of it.
And our homeworks could not be more different. Mine was this I don't know, spider web of plot happenings. And yours was this very detailed Excel spreadsheet.
I know, which is not really how I see us either. But I was really delighted by your plot work of the spider web, written down on a piece of paper, not even a white piece of paper. It was like an orange piece of paper. Was that construction paper?
No. It's an oversized Post-it note.
Oh,
you can,
wow.
Stick it on the wall afterward. Yeah.
Hilarious. Well, it was very enchanting. And mine was very linear. I was having a lot of trouble thinking about what was happening for different characters at points in my book and who was really relevant to the storyline. And so I had to plot out everything that happens and what is happening for each of those characters in that moment. So it did help me think through okay, I hadn't made this character strong enough, or I hadn't intertwined this character in the way I had imagined. And so I feel good now. I'm now I just have to write it.
Actually, I wasn't surprised so much because knowing how we both write, I'm a pantser and you're an outliner. So I think that the way that we wrote out our plots is indicative of how our brains work. No?
Yeah. I'm just not sure if I am an outliner or not. Does that apply to... Let me start my question over. Let's see what's happening in my brain. I'm pantsing right now on this question. But in essay work, I'm a pantser. I don't have an outline for the essays I do. I just sit down and write them, and whatever comes. For the nonfiction proposal, you have to be an outliner. You can't just send in a nonfiction book. People don't want that. And then for fiction, I've never written an entire fiction book. So how do I know if I'm an outliner or a pantser yet? I tried outlining. That doesn't mean I've written the book. Maybe I should just try pantsing something.
Last night during Rachel's interview, someone asked her this question, do you outline or whatever? And she says she has this very specific way of writing. And I feel like it's very similar to what I do, which is she writes her way into the novel to get the feel of it and start understanding what the problems are. And then she'll go and start writing out how everything is going to work. And I feel like that's similar to what you and I both do. I feel like
Yeah.
everyone gets an idea and they're not going to sit down and like storyboard it first. They're kind of start writing it and feeling it out and seeing what the characters sound like and all of that. So I think it'll evolve. This is your first novel, so
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
change over time. By the time
It'll
you're on your
change.
fifth,
Oh
you'll
God.
have it down.
When I'm like 80.
Don't say that. It'll be faster, sooner than that. Um, I was gonna say, and then I want to hear how your week went. I went and saw Project Hail Mary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
was
It
it?
was.
I've been every time I see a trailer, I think of Olivia Mentor.
Why is
She
that?
just like because she like loves that book. I think she like loves Andy
Oh,
Weir. She had so much stakes in like it being produced emotionally. And I think of her every time.
that's funny because I saw her story on Instagram and it was like second round. I'm like, she's seeing it again. It's a
Hmm.
2.5 hour long movie.
Was it?
Um, it was great. I am always a little skeptical of adaptations and have very high standards for them, but I think that they did an incredible job of taking a very complex scientific text. My husband hates those parts of the book, by the way. It was like, it's science. He's like, shut the fuck up. It's so stupid. So they stripped out a lot of that. They like pared down the storyline, and it doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. It goes by so quickly, and it's visually stunning. They built the whole set for it. They didn't do green screens. They built Rocky, and you can really feel that. It's really fun. I would go see it again. My mom's going to be in town in April, and she has expressed interest in seeing it. So I might take her to go see it again. But it was nice. It was a cute little date night that Boyan and I mean, I scheduled it. I made it happen, but it was lovely. So yeah, it was a good week. How was your
That's
week?
awesome. It was good. I got what I needed to get done. And I had a light workload. Uh but I just still kind of not feeling right, you know? We've started like the slow battle toward weaning. I know like everybody on my Instagram was like, you just have to like leave for a week. Um, and I
Sounds
was like,
traumatic.
yeah, I was like, I'm not that girl. I know that works. And, push comes to shove, I will be leaving for like 4 days in August. So, like, if he's not weaned by then, he will be. But, it's just winter's coming back here, which I'm like grateful for because we need it in terms of climate. But I'm also like, I was ready to be warm. So I just like something's not sitting right in my brain, and I'm just trying to let it work itself out, you know?
Those weird in between times are so hard, especially if you can't like
Yeah.
put your finger on what it is. Yeah.
Oh, I almost was gonna forget to tell you, I heard back from another agent. Um,
And
well, it's a no, but it was again a no with feedback and help. So that was really nice. Like they had like fully read the proposal, and this particular agent was in the UK, and they were like, I think this will have more resonance in the US. So I
wait,
would
was
recommend
this
going for an American agent.
the like dream
Yeah,
agent?
this was, yeah. So it was nice to like, make contact, and just be like a name in their inbox, and get some useful feedback again on a project I don't feel like working on.
How did
So
you
that's good.
how did you feel when you got that email?
I felt fine, actually. I kind of like sat there to be like, what are you feeling? What's going on? But it was like, it was just, I knew so deeply at this point that that project had needed a bunch of work in order to like become something. And so to even have known that they like read it and enjoyed parts of it, that I was like, yeah, great. Like, I agree. There was not an invitation to submit again, but the more I've thought about it, like we've talked about that dream agent a lot, that she would not represent my novel. And so in that
Right.
way, she has represented books I love. And I told her and her assistant on the email, I was like, I can't wait to see who you guys represent next, because it's like they're all over my bookshelf. But I don't fit into like who I want to be as a writer does not fit in her client roster.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a good lesson to learn now, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Was the feedback new information? that helps you think about the proposal differently? Was it a little
No, it
bit
kind of
similar to what
reiterated.
you got before from the last
Yeah.
agent? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know what I need to do on that project, and it's just a matter of wanting to do it. I'm making a face.
I was making a face too.
I wish people could see the face that I'm making.
You could if you're listening on YouTube.
Yeah, if you watch on YouTube, you'd see that little face I just made.
My mom
Um,
definitely will see it.
yeah, I can't wait for your mom to see it. The little like lip biting personal skepticism.
There's something about like when you mentally feel like you've gotten a project as like far as you can get it, and then you get some feedback where you're like, I have to do more work on this because mentally you have to overcome that block of like, I got it to the finish line that I thought I needed to get it to. It's like climbing a peak and then there's another peak and you're like, fuck, I'm so
Yeah.
tired. I'm going to turn
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, it's like what it feels like to me is that like I'm climbing up to the ridge line to get to a lake on the other side down in the valley, and it turns out that at the top of this ridge line the lake is actually not down in that valley, it's over the other ridge line. I've not reached a false summit. I haven't even gotten to the ridge line I need to be climbing, cuz with the proposal I have to rework everything. The chapter summaries, the sample chapters, the like the maybe the like brief descriptions of it still stand, but like I have to fundamentally rework the entire thing. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that right now.
I feel like you and I are both in these interesting in between spaces with our
Yeah.
projects. Me with my book, with my agent, and you with this proposal, which is, it is frustrating because we've been working toward it for so long to now be
Hmm.
stalled in this weird on the side of the road. Put your
Yeah,
thumb
I
out.
was I was trialing a new therapist the other week who actually knows quite a bit about writers and the literary scene. And I was just kind of expressing some of my frustration with Shangri-Logs and all these projects I'm doing, feeling like they're not going anywhere. And I was kind of talking about, I wanted to be a literary thinker. I want to be like a Cheryl Strayed or like Anne Lamott. And she was very aptly like, you've only been doing Shangri-Logs for just shy of 5 years. The grind that those women did before they became who you know them as is so much longer and deeper than that.
Wow.
And she was like, so you just need to just keep weathering the storm and learn to appreciate the rain a little. And I was
Yeah.
just like, God damn. God
Well, she
damn,
sounds like she's
girl.
perfect for you.
I know. I was like, okay, guess see you next week.
Donna 2.0.
Oh, I miss Donna.
Donna. Yeah, it's when you think about it, it's a never-ending slog. And while there are people out there who have these incredible deals and have a lot of good luck and a lot of great connections, for most writers, it takes a really long time. And I just remind myself that some of our favorite writers didn't publish their first book until their mid 40s and 50s. And their whole literary life happened after that point. And we still have young kids and we still have a lot of shit we got to do to support our
Hmm.
household. So it'll happen. And these are the times when we're just like sharpening our blades and becoming stronger and better. And by the time we get out of this period, our work is going to be fucking undeniably good. That's the way we have to think about it. But in the
I like
meantime,
that. Yeah.
in the meantime,
In the meantime.
Lord. Well, speaking of agents and submitting and all of that fun stuff, we actually have an agent on the podcast today. We are going to be interviewing Lauren Kahn, and she's also a friend of the pod, a fan of Pen Pals, so we're so happy to have her on. Lauren is a literary agent at Fine Print Literary and a psychological thriller author herself. She's the host of the Prose podcast. I find that to be so clever. The Prose Pros podcast. And in a past life, she was a corporate lawyer in New York City. She reps adult and YA commercial fiction across romance, thrillers, women's fiction, and fantasy, plus select nonfiction. And she's currently querying her own debut thriller, The Gold Coast. She's one of those people who sits on both sides, and she also has this really interesting legal background. I'm sure it helps her with her contract negotiations. And yeah, we're just so thrilled to have her on the podcast today. So without further ado, here's Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the pod.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
We finally have an agent on.
I know. You're our first agent.
What? Oh my goodness. This is amazing. I'm so excited.
We're excited. We're so happy to have you. And we were mentioning in the intro how fun it is to have a guest who's a listener. Then we've had a couple of those, Olivia and a few others, which is so nice because you just get it and you have a podcast yourself. So thanks so much
Yes.
for being so supportive of Pen Pals Pod.
Well, of course, it's funny you mentioned Olivia. That's how I found out about the show, was her singing the praises of Pen Pals on Bad on Paper. And yeah, I've loved it ever since. I loved your co-host vibe. Now I'm a co-host myself, and it's a special relationship.
We do have some questions prepared for you. First off, I find it so interesting that you have this background as a corporate attorney. So you did that for quite a few years, living in New York City before you transitioned into publishing. So I'm really interested because obviously publishing is a lot of contracts and negotiations. Do you feel like your legal background has given you an edge as an agent?
Definitely. Absolutely. When I was switching into this field, I kept hearing from people that one of the biggest pain points with agents is that they don't know how to negotiate very well. The contracts are very intimidating. The publishing side, they're good on, but it's everything that comes after. Once you sign the client, once you edit the client, take it out on submission, it's everything that comes during the deal phase that is the thing that they struggle with most. And I just felt like, okay, well, that's what I've been training for. Everything else is fun for me. Like the publishing side, this is just me getting to read, write, edit. I have so much fun with that. The part that I've been working on, that will set me apart. And I really feel like it has. Like I'm not intimidated by contracts at all. So I do feel like it brings me an edge. And also, it just showed me a different career that I didn't love. And so getting to wake up every day and do this career just makes me love this job so much more.
Last night at Rachel Hochhauser's book signing, she talked about how the job of being a writer versus the job of being an author, they're like two completely different jobs. And there's the fun part of like working on your book, working with your editor, but then there's being an author is a whole different industry. She's like, I feel like I'm an intern. And I'm just like learning on the job how to do all of this other work. So I would assume that this part of it is probably a huge benefit to the writers on your list because they probably feel like really supported. And what can be a very scary and intimidating, I would think, process of going on submission and selling a book and dealing with rights. Like what are
Oh
those?
my
What are
gosh.
rights?
I know. There are so many things that I feel like I can guide my authors through. Also, one thing I always bring up during my offer calls is my client services background. So that's the other thing I think that sets me apart is I have been working for corporate clients for many, many years, corporate clients who I was, doing $1 million deals for. And if I didn't respond to an email like a lot of agents tend to do, that would have been it for me. Like I would have been fired or I would have been reprimanded. I mean, there were times where maybe I didn't confirm receipt within a couple hours to a big client, and the more senior attorney I was working for was like, "What are you doing? Like, you have to confirm receipt." So I always say during my offer calls, like, you will never not hear from me. Like, I will never ghost you. I mean, I just hear that from author friends all the time, how their agents have not responded to them. And I'm just like, that's not client services. Like, what are you doing? You have to respond to your clients. So I think that also, working at a big law firm in Manhattan, like that, I learned that as well. That you can't just not respond to an email.
How did you make the switch? Because it like sounds like you're perfectly aligned, It's like, but you have those moments when you're looking at your resume and you're like, I'm perfect for this job that's totally out of my career path. How did you actually make it happen?
I love that question so much. It was one of those things that a few years ago when I was living in New York, working in big law, it started like nagging at me in the back of my brain. Like, I think I would be a really good literary agent. I had just found out about this career path. I had no idea it existed. When I was writing my own novel, learning about the querying process, starting to listen to podcasts, just kind of immersing myself in publishing. And I knew Cece Lira from the Shit No One Tells You About Writing was an attorney. And so anything that she said about switching into the agenting career path, I was like taking notes. I was like, I have to figure this out. Carly Waters, also from the Shit, had a workshop on how to become a literary agent. And I did the workshop. I was so excited. I was like, okay, like I'm going to do this. And my number one takeaway was you have to start as an assistant or intern. And I was living in Manhattan. I mean, with my salary that was like supporting our rent in Manhattan. I also worked a job that I couldn't just add in an internship. Like, I mean, I was working around the clock at this big law firm. And so I was kind of disappointed. I remember going to lunch with my husband and being like, I was really excited about this, but it's just never going to happen. So I'll just focus on being an author. And that's fine. Like, I'll feel satisfied. And so I just kind of pushed the dream away. And life is interesting. I ended up getting pregnant. We moved to Florida to be near my parents. And I ended up having to leave my big law firm job. And, with the cost of living as it is, like I had time to think about, well, what's my next move? I had started looking into remote legal jobs. And then I remembered, well, I had done some soul searching about being an agent, and I really did feel like I hit all those marks. And so I kind of dove back into it. Jenna, she's a literary agent at the Storm Agency. She has an incredible Substack. And in her Substack, she has this 3-part series, literally how to become a literary agent. And I just went through this series and followed it step by step by step, starting with getting an internship. Now, suddenly I had the time, I had the freedom. And yeah, I dove head first into it and never looked back once I realized this was the perfect job for me.
Kelton and I have talked about this. I asked Kelton, I was like, would you ever want to be an agent? And she was like, absolutely fucking not.
A lot of I feel that way, honestly.
Yeah, but I kind of like, I can understand the desire because I do appreciate reading other writers' work and helping them, developmentally with what they're working on. But how do you feel like what you have you're an author, you're a writer, so you have your writer's hat and then you have your agent hat. Like, how do you put one on and take the other off? Or do you feel like now that you're an agent and you understand the business well, does it change how you write? Does it change how you think about what you're working on?
The way I see it these days is agenting is like my full-time job. That's my 9 to 5. And then my writing is like my side hustle. So I wake up very early before my babies are awake. That's when I pound out my writing. And then once I do the baby thing, start my work day, that's when I go into agenting. And then maybe at the end of the day, I'll flip back into writing. So people have asked me like, well, how are you going to write another novel while you're agenting? I wrote a novel while I was working in Big Law. So like, that's never going to be an issue. I'm always going to be able to write on the side. And I'm not the kind of person who could even sit down and write all day. Like I just never foresee myself as like a full-time author because I burn out. Like I write my word count in the morning and then I'm done. And I need the time to kind of like think. The agenting and authoring actually really are such a great match because when I'm doing agenting stuff, I get inspired about my own writing. Like when I'm emailing editors, I'm like, oh, I can't wait one day to like see my, publisher's marketplace deal. Like that gets me pumped. When I'm doing editing for a client, I know it's reinforcing my own writing then when I work on it the next day. So these two things are definitely linked. I don't think I could be an agent and not be a writer because like I'm too thrilled like to see my authors have success. So then I want that success as an author. So they're definitely linked.
I think there's a part of agenting too that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, which is like the sales side. Like you got to be a pitch woman. And you got to be out there and be like, you're going to love this. And like, that is the part when I think about the job of a literary agent that I shy away from, where I'm like, even if I really, really cherish something, I'm like, I can't sell it. I don't like selling. It's not for me. And so I'm like curious, like where that part comes in for you. Like, is that a part you're passionate about?
I think what happens is I fall in love with a manuscript. From the moment it's in my query inbox, I fall in love with it. It makes it hard when maybe an author chooses another agent because then I feel the loss. But once I start working on this manuscript with my author, like I'm all in. I'm so excited and passionate about this. I want to sell it. And I will say the part that is hard is not necessarily the pitching, but the no's. I'm getting no's all day long. Whereas, when as a author, you're getting a lot of no's. As an agent, I just feel like I'm getting them tenfold because I'm getting them for so many clients. And it's really the part that's hard is then having to keep going and just keep pushing. But I'm someone who I will knock down every door until I get what I want. Like that's just a part of me. I mean, even just getting this agent job, like I wanted to be an agent. I was going to make that happen. And so that's how I feel about these books. It's like I'm just going to keep going, and even if it's not this book, I'm so passionate about you as an author, like that we're just going to keep writing and we're going to keep selling. But I definitely, yeah, I had a moment. I started this last summer, and I had a moment in like the last month where I was, I had not gotten an offer on a client yet. That has changed in the last month. I feel like a lot has changed in the last month, but I was like, woo, I've been doing this. I've been actively on submission for about 6 months and it's just been no's. And that's really hard. Like you start to wonder like, well, when am I going to get that yes? And I know authors feel this too. We're just like, when is this going to happen for me? Things did start to change in the last month. And that's what's shown me that you really just have to keep going and just keep being persistent. And I really think that goes for writing too. Like you can't stop. You have to keep going.
Yeah, you have to be indefatigable, right? I think that that's what an author needs, though, or a writer needs from their agent is someone who's like, we're just gonna keep going. It's not gonna stop. Like that's the energy we need to bring to the table. So I know you're actively querying the Gold Coast. I'm curious. So you see a lot of queries. You get a lot of queries in your inbox and probably see all the mistakes that writers make when they send out a query for the first time. Do you feel like are you making the mistake? Have you found yourself kind of falling into the same mistakes that other writers have when they were querying?
So this is my second time querying. I actually had an agent that I left and I switched genres. So it's been two very different experiences. I will say in both experiences, my mistake that I've made is I've queried before the manuscript was actually done.
Mm.
I don't know why I do this. And I tell authors, don't query too soon. And here I am doing it. I just get to this point where I'm like, I need an outside deadline. I need someone to light a fire in my ass. And hey, I'll just get in line. Like I'm just going to slot in. I probably won't hear from these agents for months anyways. It's been crazy. The last few weeks, I'm now at 15 full requests. And so I had to go into an editing hole and for like a couple weeks and just knock this manuscript out. And like I was basically there, but as a perfectionist, editor, agent, like I needed to do my Kindle read. I needed to do my printout read. Like I needed to incorporate some last minute beta reader feedback. So I sent those all out last Wednesday. And oh my gosh, I don't know how authors do this all the time. Now seeing it from an agent perspective, I'm like, this is hell. Like and I keep thinking, oh, over the weekend, like they probably all sent it to their Kindle. They're all spending their whole weekend reading my manuscript. No, I mean, there are fulls that like I still haven't gotten to yet. So I don't know why we like make up these scenarios. Haven't heard from anybody yet. But yeah, I think that's the mistake is I don't know why I didn't give myself like another month. Like why did I make life hell for me for like the last few weeks where I just like
I
wasn't
feel you
sleeping?
on that though. Like I also similarly, I have to have that deadline. And after just I only did 5 queries on my nonfiction proposal. And like there was a part of me that knew it wasn't ready yet. I mean, at the point we talked on this on the podcast, I hadn't even done the chapter summaries. I just had submitted it to the people who didn't require chapter summaries so I could keep working on them. But I needed that driving momentum to get me to do something. So I hear you 100%. I'm also curious, when you work at a literary agency, do you query your own agency? Are you
I
like,
didn't.
I'm separating church and state. I'm only
Yeah.
querying outside. Like, do your colleagues know you're querying other people?
That's so funny. I actually talked a lot with one of my colleagues because she also is an agented author and like has queried a couple times, and so we talked about this a lot. It's funny because so many people in my life that aren't in publishing have asked me, "Well, why don't you just rep yourself?" And I'm like, I guess that's a great question, but I just feel like I need someone else's stamp of approval. Like I just feel like if I was sending out my own manuscript, that just wouldn't be the same mark of approval, you know? Like I guess I don't know, is there a rule that I can't do that? I've never really asked, but I just feel like it doesn't have that like outside, like external, like validation. Like this is a good manuscript, you know?
So you don't have that partnership with someone.
Exactly. You need the partnership too, 100%. And like I don't want to sell my own book. Like I want that experience as an author too, where like I have someone kind of handling the business side of things and then I can just work on the creative side.
Yeah, because imagine having to like advocate for and negotiate. Having someone else's brain on it, I think would be immensely helpful in that respect.
Totally.
Yeah, and even if it was someone says even if you had like sought representation within your own agency, you don't want to like have
Yeah.
sent someone your full while you're having a Teams meeting with them. You know,
Yeah, you're like, hey,
you're
so
like,
did you
I see it in the background.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's also like, I guess now that I'm starting to get to know other agents too, I just don't want to like anyone to feel pressure to request my
Mhm.
full or feel awkward to reject me. Like I want it to be a genuine, like I consider this manuscript not because I know you, you know?
Right.
I was gonna say Kelton and Lauren, you guys like Lauren's talking. I'm like, this sounds so much like Kelton, like how Kelton thinks about things.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. So congrats on your 15 full requests. That's incredible. What do you think got you those 15 fulls? Like, what are the things that your query really did a good job of that our listeners who may be in the trenches or getting ready to go into the trenches could learn from?
I really worked on my query this time. I perfected it. I had another friend read it. I really drilled down because I wanted to make it stand out. I think, I started it out with a really hooky comp section. Like I made sure my comps were just like on it. I really paid attention to those because I know as an agent, I'm looking for comps. And a lot of people struggle with comps. I guess I feel like I've never really struggled with it just because I'm such an avid reader. And maybe this is where my agenting side is coming out too. When I'm reading over my manuscript, I'm just thinking, oh, this is that book. This is that book. And I'm constantly kind of like keeping a list of like books that it just reminds me of. One thing I hear a lot from people is them saying, well, there is no comp that exists that
Yeah, all of
is
our
like my
books, they're
book.
like unicorns.
I
We all
know.
have unique ideas that have never occurred in history before. We're the first, the one, and the only.
I know. And I hear that all the time. I had a TikTok post about comps, and I've gotten so many comments of people saying, like, well, there are no comps. I promise you there is. And if there's not one, like you shouldn't have one anyways. You should have like three. And if they don't exist, then you probably need to revisit your manuscript because I'm not going to be able to sell it if there are no comps at all. Like if this has never been on the market before, well, like it's going to be very hard for me to sell because that's what editors are doing. They're looking at the sales of these comps. So my comps I feel like are strong and they're pretty recent, like last 5 years. I even had one, I read the book like over Thanksgiving. I threw that in there because I was like, oh, this is new. People want things like this. I have like a pretty strong like one sentence pitch right after those comps. And then I have my short summary, which I tell people the best way to figure out how to write like the summary of your plot for a queer letter is go to a bookstore and just start reading the backs of books. Because that's as an agent, like that's what the experience is like for me. Like when I'm going through my query tracker, the people that are writing these long, long summaries, like that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who I feel like I just picked up a book in a bookstore and I'm like, ooh, I'm dying to read this. And then I jump in and request a full. I feel like my bio is strong too. I don't necessarily think it's the agenting thing because I've talked to other querying agents and they said they queried for several months. So like I don't think it's that, but I do think, I have been agented before. I've written other manuscripts. I take writing classes and I have a publishing podcast. Like I am in this industry. I am committed to being in this industry. And that's something I look for too. If someone is like actively trying to become an author and like be a part of this world, like that stands out to me versus someone who this is just kind of like a one-off. Um, I don't know. I also wrote a psychological thriller and I feel like they might be having a moment. I have a unique protagonist because she's pregnant. I drafted this when I was heavily pregnant, and I think that was definitely on the mind. So I don't know. Like we'll see when I start. Ideally, knock on wood, getting agent offers. Like I'm so curious to hear what it was that like drew them in because I do feel like I'm getting requests from people who, according to Query Tracker, like never request. So something about it is standing out.
That's really interesting. You saying that your protagonist is heavily pregnant made me think of the conversation we had last week with Courtney Mom and trend forecasting, and the like trad wife, secret lives, Mormon wives, ballerina farms is heavily, in the zeitgeist right now. So I bet that it's very timely and interesting for agents to be reading books with a protagonist like that. That's really interesting. So you mentioned you're not the first writer that I've heard that has been agented, parted ways with their agent, and is now querying again or has their second agent. Would you be willing to tell us kind of like what happened with that first agent? It sounds like you changed genres. Maybe they weren't representing that genre, but how did you manage that very delicate, breakup? I guess you would call
Yeah.
it.
I do think, my first agented experience happened for a reason because it was the reason I fell into agenting myself. Like going through that, seeing what it's like to be an agent, finding her, all of that led me down the path of agenting myself. I think what happened is as I learned more about this world versus the first time I queried when I really knew nothing, I was just kind of throwing things out there. I just realized that the agent I had didn't have all of the qualities that I wanted in an agent and all the things that I was doing as an agent. I was like, I want someone who's like me. So that was big. I really felt like the initial passion for my first manuscript, which was a rom-com, that passion on the first call, it kind of dwindled. Like I just felt like here I'm saying I will knock down every door and I will send to hundreds of editors. I think we went out to like 8 editors. And I got to the point where I was like, asking her, like, when are we going out again? And I just felt like I was becoming this nag. And I just felt like the communication wasn't what I was looking for. So there were things that I was seeing other agents doing that I just felt like I wanted more for myself, especially this early on in my career. And then yes, the changing genres was huge. She was more of in the romance women's fiction space. And I wanted someone that was going to be this incredible agent in this new psychological thriller genre that I'm loving. Like I'm writing now another book in this genre, and I feel like my voice is really being captured in a way that it wasn't in this like other rom-com space I was writing in. But it was very hard, especially from like an identity perspective. Going from an agented author who, I mean, when I got my first agent offer, I think I had 3 on that rom-com. I was like sobbing. Like when I got that email to have the call, I was so excited because I just felt like it was such a dream I'd been chasing. I wanted to be a writer my whole life. I'm such a big reader. It just felt like it was happening. My family was so excited. We were all celebrating, going out on submission was so exciting. And then like the excitement just started to dwindle as time went on. And then to then break that off, oh gosh, it was a punch to the gut. Because now I'm just a writer again. I went from an agented author to a writer with no literary agent. And so to be at like the mountaintop and come off, it was really hard. It took many, many months of like really thinking that over to finally do it. And I just, I went over the way to do it so many different times with my husband. I eventually I kept it like pretty short and sweet and just, said I was changing genres.
It
Yeah,
really
and
sounds like a
then that was it.
breakup. When
It
you're
it is
breaking
a
up with
breakup,
someone
yeah.
who's like your friend, that it's like a good person where you're like, it's just not there anymore. And like you always
Exactly.
want like the excuse to be like, well, they cheated. So I just like I had a real reason to just like cut off. But with like an agent where it's like the vibe is just off, I can imagine it's really hard to advocate for yourself enough to be like, no, I have to do this. I got to step off that pedestal that I found myself on and like find a different pedestal.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really hard. I think the other thing that kept me sane was that I started working on this new manuscript last February. Well, to backtrack, I had started a new rom-com and I just was, oh my gosh, it was like hitting my head against a wall. I was like, I am so bored. This is terrible. Like I just couldn't do it. And I had this thriller idea, kicking around, but I don't write thriller. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get it out of my system. I'm just going to do this for fun. Like I said, I was so pregnant. I was just like, I'm just going to do this. And I became obsessed with writing this thriller. And so I think that helped too, is I knew she really didn't rep this genre. And so I was probably going to have to do something like this anyways. And honestly, when I got that first full request, I think that was the other reason I started querying too soon too, is just like I was just so ready to get an agent again. When I got that first full request, like pretty immediately, it felt like a sign, like, okay, I did the right thing. And now I've been getting so many requests that I feel so excited. And I hope that this next, chapter in my writing journey is really starting.
I can't wait for us to be able to celebrate your representation soon.
Thank you.
Uh, both Kelton and I have gone through the process of querying and creating a list of agents. Do you have any advice for writers on how to create that list? Like what they should be looking for when they're thinking about what agents to query? And then are there any like red flags or green flags or things that they should consider when they do start hearing from agents eventually?
Yes. Oh, all of the things. I've thought about this so much as an agent myself, but also as an author. And I actually said yesterday on my podcast something kind of controversial, that if I were to get an agent offer and we have the call and I'm not feeling it on that call, this is so important to me that I would just say no and not go ahead and nudge everybody else. Because the risk is that no one else says yes. And now you're pretty much stuck with that agent that you didn't vibe with. So I am like thinking about this constantly. Like, what am I looking for? To start with the query list, I think Publishers Marketplace is a very underused tool by authors. I think it's something that people think that only agents use, but I really wish that I had used Publishers Marketplace in my first querying experience to look at sales, to see, what are these agents selling? Who are they selling to? Are they selling to Big Five, if that's like where I see myself going? Because there are agencies that really only sell to like smaller publishers, which is fine. Like someone might just want to be published and they don't care where. That's fine. But I would like to see someone who has connections to the Big Five. And are they selling in my genre? Are they selling debuts? Like you can filter all this on Publishers Marketplace versus what I did my first querying experience, where if someone opened on Query Tracker, I was querying them. Like it didn't really matter anything else. So I think those are the things to do. I also think, write down agencies, but then really dig into the different agents at the agencies. Like make sure you're querying the person that you actually want to query. And don't self-reject. I think that's what I've learned this time around. So one of the agents that I queried a few weeks ago, is at an agency, a very reputable agency. I mean, selling books that I would just like dream to be up next to. And I've never seen this done at another agency, but they actually let you query multiple agents at once. So I chose the newer agent because I was, already self-rejecting. I was like, she's new. She'll open my email. I won't query like the head of this agency who, reps some of my favorite authors. I just won't, because she'll never read the email. And I saw that you can query multiple agents. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I have nothing to lose. Like, she's not going to read the email. I can query two agents. I'll just do it. She responded. The big time agent who never requested my manuscript. And my immediate thought was like, oh my gosh, there I was self-rejecting. And so I've now done this a couple more times where instead of going with my, not to say that like the new agent, I'm a new agent and I feel like I'm doing great. But like as an author, if you're choosing who you really want to query, or let me backtrack. If you're not choosing who you really want to query because you feel like you should just go for the newer agent, go for the person you really want to query. Like this is your chance. And actually, Courtney Mom, I'm reading her before and after the book deal right now. It's so funny. It came this weekend and then I saw that you guys had her on the podcast on Monday. I was like, well, this is a sign. She talks about that where she's just like, just query the person you want to query, because you don't want to get an offer from this other person and then wish like, oh, I wish I'd queried that other person. And so I've gone on to now query like some of the bigger people that I was nervous about querying, and guess what? They requested. And so I'm no longer self-rejecting. I'm really considering my options. Whereas in the past, I think I just was like, oh, I'll just go with the person who might open my email because they're newer. Go with an agent you want to query. And then when it comes down to deciding, oof, gosh, I will say after having gone through it, no agent is better than a bad agent. Truly, take your time. Really consider all of the factors. You know, there are lists floating around online of like the questions you need to ask. I think the vibe that you feel on that call, like your gut is really important. Um, are you comfortable talking to this person? One of my things that I try to help like set me apart, since I don't really have any sales yet, although soon I will, is that I just want people to be comfortable with me. Like I want them to feel like they can email me anytime, because I didn't feel that with my previous agent. I was very scared to email my agent. And I have so many other friends in this world who are very scared to email their agent, and they have like drafts floating for months before they finally hit send. Like I don't want that. I want people to always feel comfortable with me. So in my next agent, like I just want comfort. Like I want to feel like I can talk to you. You know, this ideally is a career-long relationship, and I want to be able to talk to you about my career. I mean, you know, this is a partnership. I think, you know, where you can look at sales, I think that is important. I in the past like wasn't looking at recent sales, and I think that that knocked me too. Like really look at the sales. Ask to speak to their clients, current clients, but also try to find clients who've left. Like if you've noticed that there's a client that's gone to somewhere new, just find out why, like if that person will talk to you. And just, yeah, I think if you just can see yourself working with this person, I think that's the most important thing. Like this is your chance on this call to ask all those questions, and don't be shy. There's a power shift. Once the agent offers, you're now in the driver's seat, and ask all the questions that you want to ask. I felt very nervous my first time around to ask anything, because I was afraid they were going to take it back, and they're not. Like they want you. They want your manuscript. They're not going to take it back. Make sure they give you the 2 or 3 weeks, industry standard. I was pressured into less time. Do not be pressured into less time. Like publishing is very slow. They can wait. Yeah, I mean, there are so many things to consider, but I think those are the things that really are top of mind for me.
I want to hear about your inbox right now. Like, what jazzes you in a query letter? I was telling Krisserin in the intro, I got another rejection with some feedback this morning. And one thing they said, they were like, "We really love your platform." And I was like, yeah, I know that part's helpful. But like in your inbox, when you are reading a query, are you like jazzed to see writing classes? Are you psyched about platforms, or does it matter to you? What's the genre that you're like, I'm dying to represent this? Or are you kind of agnostic in that?
Definitely am looking for things that hook me. Like I know my taste. People say, you know, that my querying rejections are fast. Because I just know my taste so unbelievably well. I really want to represent more thriller. I have a literary thriller that I'm obsessed with. I'm trying to sell them now, and I want them to get a book deal so bad. And I definitely want more thriller on my list, because that just always lights me up. I want a twist that I did not see coming, like just really shock me. I love romance. Like I will always, I think, represent romance, but I am not someone who's doing like a small town, just 2 people fall in love. Like I need something else. It needs to make me either like laugh out loud, or have like a speculative twist. Like I have this incredible manuscript we're subbing right now that it's grounded with a speculative twist. It just needs to be like a little different. Platform is great, like especially when it comes to, I have a few cookbook authors on my list, and I'm very passionate about the food industry. But I've realized now, after submitting these manuscripts, or these proposals rather, that platform is king. Like that's just, they want to see platform. But yeah, writing classes, like anything that just can set you apart, that you're really working on this, that always stands out to me. Mentorship programs, I have a few people that did the Smooch Pit mentorship program for romance, and that stands out for me because I know, you know, they have gone through multiple rounds of editing. I have, you know, a very editorial eye, and I will always do at least a round or 2 of editing, but it's nice to know that it's like already gone through that. So I think, yeah, those are like the main things I'm looking for.
Yeah, I saw on your manuscript wish list Romance Plus.
Yeah,
I'm the same. Like, there's got to be
Yeah.
stakes. Like, if we're just watching 2 people fall in love, it's a little bit of a snooze fest, unless there's just like a lot of sex in the book, and then it's like, oh, that's what this book is for, you know? I see what you're
Yes.
doing here.
No, totally. I get very bored very easily. Like I need pacing. I need, commercial hooky. I mentioned I do have the literary thriller, but that's just because their writing is so unbelievable. And they still had twists. Like it just because something's literary or, maybe like smaller or quieter, like in my book, it still needs pacing. Like there are books that I have picked up that I have thought, oh, this is not for me because it's like too literary or what have you. But I ended up falling in love with those books because they did keep me, turning the page. Like there is this like underlying propulsion. And so I think that's the main thing that I'm looking for is like, do I want to keep turning the page? And if I don't, one of my agent mentors told me that if she puts down her Kindle after starting manuscript and she doesn't want to pick it back up the next morning, then it's just a no for her. And so I've started doing that where when I first started this job, I felt like I had to finish every full I requested. Now I feel like if I don't want to keep reading it, like if I just don't care, it's just going to be a no for me. But that doesn't mean it's a no for every agent. Like it just might not be my taste. And I think that's important for authors to hear is a no is not a no from everyone. It wasn't a match. I mean, we're doing this for free. So we have to love something. Like we want to
Yeah.
have to, work on this and pour in edits. And like I said, like there are agents that don't do edits. I do a lot of editing. Like that's just, I'm editorial. I'm always going to want to work on that with you. And if I don't care about this manuscript, that's really hard for me to do for free. Like I really have to love something. But just because I don't love it, it doesn't mean another agent won't.
Right. What's the last book that you read that fits that description that's not someone who's queried you, like a published book that you read that was so propulsive and surprising and exciting?
My gosh. The one that I automatically think of, I think just because I read it this is actually the one I mentioned earlier that I added as a comp. I read it on Black Friday and I just like ignored my family was Best Offer Wins. Have you read that?
No.
Oh, it is so good. It's a psychological thriller about the housing market. Um, and it is just, the lengths that this woman will go to get her dream home. Obviously, it's so much more than that. But she was so crazy. I just could not stop. I had to finish this book. So I think that was the last one that I truly was just like, I have to keep going.
What are the comps that you want to see? Like, what are besides that book, that if they came into your inbox, you'd be like, I have to read this. I want the full manuscript right away.
I think anyone that ever comes to, just some of my favorite authors, like Liz Moore, I always say, anything like that comes to God of the Woods, I'm probably going to want to see more. My literary thriller that I signed, They Come to God of the Woods, just because it's one of my favorite books. Stacey Willingham is another author I love. Ashley Winstead. Those are more in like the thriller category. For romance, I mean, lately, I think my favorite romance that I've read in the last few months that if you comp to this, I'm going to want to see more is One and Only by Maureen Gu. And this was grounded with a speculative twist about soulmates and past lives. And it was so interesting and hilarious. And I loved it. Usually I can tell in the query letter. Like if I like the query letter, of course I'll go to the pages, but I can usually tell from the query letter if I'm going to like something. I'm very in tune with my taste.
I feel like speculative romance is a genre that's underrepresented, but there are so many good books in that genre, and they're way more. I feel like personally for me, they're way more fun to read than like a straight romance, which I get
I
bored with, unless it's a
agree.
historical romance, which, as you know, I
Yes.
love.
Yes. No, I agree. Like Rebecca Searle, Ashley
Yeah.
Poston, like anything that's like
Yes.
in this world, but then
Yeah.
like there's this one slight difference, but
Yeah.
it's accepted. Like no one's asking questions about why this thing is. It just is.
Yeah. Let's fall. Like, give me a ghost to fall in love with.
Yes. Exactly.
Give me some real yearning.
Yes, absolutely. I think too, like I loved travel in my book. So like a book that I loved last fall, it's funny as it is a pretty just basic romance, but I think the setting was so gorgeous. It's Different This Time by Joss Richard. Like it was in the West Village of New York in the fall, and I just was so mentally there that I loved that book. Emily Everett's book that was a Reese's Book Club pick last year is you travel to London and Lisbon, and I just as I mentioned, was very pregnant last year. And so mentally, I'm like traveling all over the world with these authors. So those usually get me too.
Kelton always likes to ask what your top 3 books that
On your nightstand could be just like books that stay with you over time. Like, what are the books that linger with you?
Anything by Emily Henry, I've read multiple times. That's just a comfort for me. Emily Henry and Carly Fortune, Every Summer After. Like those are comfort reads. And I have reread Ashley Winstead's books a lot. In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife is one of my favorites. I'm actually comping to that one too. That'll just always be a standard for me. I mean, it's so funny because my parents live down the street. And so I've been looking at my childhood bookshelf a lot. I read so much Sarah Dessen. Like that, she was like it for me. It's funny because that's like YA romance. And so I think that was one of my like intros into the genre. Like, oh, you don't just have to read, these academic books. I think, I was definitely reading like Hunger Games and stuff like that. But I think when I started to realize that there were books beyond like what we were reading in school and you could, fall in love and that's like an acceptable book to read. It's just so interesting. I love looking back at my childhood bookshelf and just seeing, okay, so that was it. That was it for me at the time.
are you open for querying right now? Are you trying to build your list? Tell us
Yes.
how people can query you, what you're looking for, what your
Yeah.
requirements are. Let our listeners know.
Yeah, I am on Query Tracker. I'm open. I intend to pretty much always be open unless like I close for a few days or something. The agent that I interned for told me he was always open because he was so afraid of missing out on his dream book. And that's happened to me. Like I've closed a couple times just to kind of get my bearings, and the whole time I was like, oh my gosh, there could be something sliding into my inbox right now that I'm missing, and then they're going to get agented. I think too, because knowing that a lot of the people on my list, I pretty much requested them right away, read their book within like a weekend, and then was offering. What am I looking for? I read extremely widely. I know I feel like I've only been talking about romance and thrillers, but I read it all. I want to rep it all. So if if you're proud of your book and you're ready to query, send it to me. I'm on Query Tracker, like I mentioned. I do have a manuscript wish list on my website, but like I said, I'm really open to anything. I think I'm asking for the first 5 pages just because I feel like I get a sense after that. That's why, those first pages should really be strong and polished. I think as an agent, we get a sense of the writing and of the voice just from that amount. Yeah, so I would love to see your manuscripts. Send them my way. And I also represent nonfiction, really focused on cookbooks right now. I have a couple amazing chefs on my list, but if you have a memoir, if you have anything else in the nonfiction space, parenting, I've mentioned I'm a mom, like, send it my way.
Amazing. And where can people find you besides Query Tracker and all of the obvious places? What are your socials? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much at Lauren JP Con everywhere. I also am the co-host of the Prose Pros. We have interviewed some of these authors that I've mentioned, so definitely check out those episodes. It has been such an honor to be here. It's so crazy hearing your voices because I've listened to your voices and so seeing your faces, it's so cool. And I'm so glad I think I slid into a DM and then you shouted me out on the show. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is incredible that we're here.
Yes, this is what building a community is all about.
Speaking of
Exactly.
community, I do have one more question.
Oh, yes,
This is one of my
please.
new every episode questions. What do
Ooh.
you
Let's do it.
think it takes to be a good literary citizen?
Oh, I love that so much. I think building each other up as you can as a writer. I think a great example is yesterday. I have a friend who she had a huge deal announced in the last few months. We actually became friends because she queried me. That's not always how it happens, but we just, after she went with someone else, I mean, she had 14 offers, so it's fine. We started talking, and she called me yesterday to talk about her new title, and we were like throwing around title ideas together. And I was like, this is so cool that I get to, be a part of this with you. And I truly, there was part of me that was wondering, like, should I feel jealous? Like she's already at the stage. But the other part of me was like, you know what? I'm going to be here. I know in my gut I'm going to be here, and I'm going to call her, and we're going to talk through my agent offers. And then one day we're going to talk through my title options. And I feel like I'm building that community now just by being there for my friends and, posting about their books and just helping them as they go through these different decisions. I always wanted to be in the publishing world. Like, this is my dream. And even though I don't have a book deal yet, like, I'm in it. Like, this is, I'm talking about books all day long. And so, it's a dream. It really is a dream come true. And so just by surrounding myself with people that are going after this dream also, I feel like I'm being a literary citizen. And, also creating things that might help someone. Like, I feel like with our podcast, our mission is just to help other querying authors, to help people that are going through it, to, extract as much advice as we can from guests. And so if you feel like you have something to say, put it out there, try to help other people, pay it forward. And yeah, just don't leave 1-star Goodreads reviews.
I'm glad you said that, not the last part, but the extract as much information as possible, because I feel like I just drilled you for an hour.
Oh, I love it though. Please just like throw questions at me. This is really so meaningful to me. Like, I want to help people because it is such an opaque industry. I mean, I mentioned to you, I had no idea what I was doing when I was querying the first time. I think that was 2.5, 3 years ago. I had no idea. And I wish that like someone was sharing this knowledge. So yeah, extract as much as you can.
Well, thank you so much for being such a great literary citizen and friend of the pod, and for sliding into our DMs. We need more sliding into DMs for non-gross reasons. If men can do it, women can do it to help each other on their publishing journeys. So, Lauren, it was such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'm so glad now we can be friends.
Yes,
Yay,
we're friends.
in real life
Thank
friends.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always so nice to chat with someone who listens to the podcast.
Yeah, it is. It's someone who's like on the wavelength.
Yeah, who understands not only what we're going through, but it's, she's also a podcaster herself, so she gets it. It was great. Lauren's so great.
And like a deep embedded literary citizen, which is what we all aspire to be.
We all aspire to be. That's right. All right, well, what's up for the next week, man? What are we doing? What homework do we have?
I feel like the only logical homework for me is to start writing out scenes. It's like I have a whole plot structure now. Why would I not just start writing scenes? I have it blocked into my calendar. I have all these times framed out. So like, I don't see why that wouldn't just be like, write 2 scenes. I'm not going to give a word count to myself. I've learned that is not my modus operandi currently, but I do think 2 scenes is achievable and fun. It sounds fun.
That sounds fun. I'm hoping I'll write at least like 3 times next week, like three days. That's my goal. Yeah. That's what I did this last week, was 3 days. And again, it was just completely opportunistic. I actually put time on my calendar because I remembered that I said I was going to do that, inspired by you putting time on your calendar. And it didn't work. I didn't even see it. Didn't even remember to do it. I know. One of the times I wrote in the morning after my kids went to school. One of the times I wrote in the evening after I fed them dinner. And then once was just like a short little like 300 words that I like squeaked out in the middle of the day. So it was just, it's super sporadic at this point. But yeah, 3 times. That's my goal.
I think that's a great goal. 3 times for Krisserin. I'm going to write down our goals.
Yeah, we didn't write them down last week, but the fact that we sent each other our homework was the only reason why I remembered what they were.
Okay. Krisserin, write 3 times. Kelton, write 2 scenes.
I think that's highly achievable.
I think that's achievable. I did make one mistake in advance of this coming week, which is I made plans with 4 different people.
That's good. I mean, I feel like this is the season. We're supposed to like get out now, right? It's not, well, I guess for you it's still kind of winter, but it's spring.
Yeah.
Go out and be social, see people, go to book signings.
I know. I'm like already overwhelmed by how many plans I have. I'm like, oh no, I've overcommitted.
Well, speaking of overcommitting, I have Speen's birthday party on Saturday.
Oh.
And then it's spring break next week. And I've already promised to take them to the beach. And I've kind of like made soft plans to go to Universal Studios and a play date. And
oh boy.
Yeah.
Coming in hot.
While working. and trying to get some movement in during that time. So it'll be an interesting week, to put it lightly. We'll see how everything goes. I think the plan is after we record the podcast on Thursday is I'll scoop them up and take them somewhere. But it's been so
Fun.
warm. Let's go to the beach. Except for when I was driving, where was I? You know, when you're driving on the 101 through Calabasas, you can kind of see over the Santa Monica Mountains. There was like a very heavy cloud on top of so I'm sure it's cold at the beach.
The marine
now.
layer.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
Remember it well. Oh man. Well, besides those 4 outings, any other things that you feel like might be impediments to you achieving your goals?
I mean, night weaning. That's where we're starting with this process. We're night weaning, and that has been going quite poorly, I'll have you know.
I thought you said you were going to do the nighttime last.
That's what we thought. And then we changed our minds. And I have to tell you, I think I'm going to change my mind a lot in this process. It's a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall. And the spaghetti is my boobs. And it's hard, and I don't like it.
Damn. Well, I wish you all the best of luck on that journey.
Thank you.
I just wonder what you said last time is it going to be it would just create more problems.
So far that's all it's done. I'm so tired.
Oh man. Well, if anyone has any really great tips for
Nope,
weaning,
nope, I don't want
do not send them to Kelton.
Don't send
she
them
does
to
not
me.
want them.
Don't talk to me about it. Don't bring it up. Don't say what worked for you. I don't want to know.
She doesn't want to know.
I don't
You
want to
can
know.
fuck right off with that advice.
Listen, you can hold it in your heart and think of me, and that's all I need.
Well, if you
get
do
there.
want to say hi, either way, we've gotten so many great inbounds in our inbox. We've had so many people reach out and say hey, my friend is a self-published author. I think she would be great for your podcast. Hey, have you heard of this contest? You should submit your speculative fiction novel. We're getting all of these incredible inbounds. So please keep them coming because they keep us going, to be honest, because showing up each week the podcast is a lot of work. We get a lot out of it, but it is a lot of work. So hearing that people are actually getting something out of it helps a lot.
Yeah. And let us know if you're ever you need a Pen Pals Slack group for all the writers in the pits of hell who can just complain to each other. And we could curate that. We could make that happen.
I'm on Slack all day, every day. Actually, Kelton and I usually communicate through Slack and text. We text each other too.
We have separate
too.
Yeah, we have separate conversations for text versus Slack.
That's true. I think Slack's more business and texting's more how did Courtney mom describe it? Gossipy and lively.
Yeah, gossipy and energetic.
That's right.
Which was I told Krisserin my dream description of my podcast.
Love it. Well, to all of our gossipy and energetic listeners, if you want to get in contact with us, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at officialpenpalspod@gmail.com. You can follow us at penpalspod on all of the platforms, Substack, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can follow Kelton at KeltonKin on Instagram or Kelton Writes.
Doesn't matter.
Follow her at Kelton Write on TikTok, shingerlogs.substack.com for her writing, and then you can hear all about her classes and offerings at keltonwrite.com. You can follow me at Krisserin on TikTok, and yeah, those are all the places.
Happy writing, friends.
Yes, until next week, happy writing.